looks like it's going. All right, Mister. Yeah, I was actually working on trying to make sure I get your last name correctly. Is it Naftol? Is that the right
Neofit,
pronunciation?
neofito,
No, Vito. I like that.
neofito. Actually, it means it's because I know you are interested in Greek, and I love that aspect about you. So, neophyte actually translates loosely into new plant.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's very well, I don't want to say apropos, but you get my point.
yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. I had when I did I forget what they call the term when you look up people, you look up names and the
Mhm.
meanings. I just, randomly, I kind of almost seem like it's horoscopy kind of just because of the way people sometimes lean into it too much, right?
Yeah.
But I looked up my first name and last name, and it was really weird because everything on the internet has both of those names, my first Brett and Andries, and
Mhm.
I believe it's there's family debate. Austrian or Hungarian is the background or something like that, but everybody always thinks it's Spanish because of the way it's spelled. But
Okay.
but it was apparently it means either brave or manly or something like that, and I'm like, I don't really feel very manly sometimes. That's
Yeah, but
awesome.
you are brave. So,
That's true. And I was, and that harkens back to uh, Cassie talking about this being a brave space,
mm,
and I think it really is. You put yourself out there. You're talking to people you barely know, and you're working on getting to know them, and
yes.
yeah, and the criticism of the hive mind and how that all works. So
Yeah, it's a process. It's a process. It's a it's a transformative process. I can't say at this point. Yeah, because slowly, slowly, because we participate, and this participation in a way shape us, and it's the participation and the journey that is shaping us, and not the final destination in this case. So yeah, that's cool.
yeah, that's actually a good segue. I kind of wanted to know how you felt. Well, let me first just for people like maybe that are finding my channel that aren't
Mhm.
as familiar with you or the TLC as much. I mean, I would say if they're watching my channel, they have a better grasp on it than just the average person popping in. But I guess I guess I don't want to properly introduce you. I'll tell you what I know about you, and then you can fill in the blanks. Um, it seems to me that you're a numbers Nephilim. You are a giant of numbers,
Ah,
and
okay, okay,
and
perfect.
is that I hope that's okay. So, I think I think I saw some of your Karen Wong videos, which is fascinating to me. I kind of, as far as I mean, I was studying for engineering, and as far as I got was Calc 2, but I was in that sphere of talking with people and getting ready to do engineering, um, and when the math just gets so amazing, you can't really explain that to somebody who's not into numbers. I remember the first time I saw squeeze theorem, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, how did, you just wondered how people did things and how they came up with theorems. And, I know that you have done a theorem proof as well. And so I just think it's spectacular. So you're a numbers guy, to put it lightly. You are, as best as I can understand, you are more integral to the TLC, um, in this little corner of the internet than I think a lot of people even realize. Um, and maybe you wouldn't frame it that way, um, but I can, that's the sense I get from people that I speak with. And when I talk to people about you, um, they're, and then when you had mentioned um, that you were going to move out of the TLC, but not, that you would be kind of on the peripheral watching, um, but not as much of a participant. It seemed like it really was, you know, a lot of people were like, oh, you know, um, big disappointment. So I guess you could explain your evolution in the TLC a little bit, and also anything I missed as far as background, because I'm sure there's a lot.
Yeah. Um, okay. I think your intro was good, and yeah, I'm really into number theory. I'm fascinated by mathematics, especially pure mathematics. Uh, but not only that, like I also appreciate applied mathematics and how they transfer into engineering. So I'm not one of those guys that no, it's only about the theory and we need to keep everything pure and we need to do science and mathematics for the sake of mathematics and not for something practical. I don't believe that. I value both things. So I value the pure path, as they call it, of pure mathematics, where you do research because you want to discover new things. First of all, because I really believe that we discover things in mathematics and we do not invent them. We invent things like mathematical notation and some other things like constructions and all of that. But the actual things that we finally arrive at, I think they were there for us to discover to even begin with. So I really value that aspect of mathematics, but I also value the practical applicability of it, because to me mathematics is like one of those universal languages like music. So it's a way to better understand and even parse the world around us. So that's my perspective in terms of my passion and my love for numbers, as you said it. So in terms of TLC, yeah, that was my initial introduction to the TLC. You mentioned Karen Wong's channel, the Mini Code. I reached out to Karen in order to present to her some of my results in group theory, but also some number theoretic results. And that's how we became friends eventually. And that was my main introduction to the corner. Okay. And that happened even before I had a more concise picture in my head of what this little corner of the internet is to begin with. Over the years, I think I deciphered that. I came to this conclusion that it's, recently I found a short video on YouTube. The algorithm served it to me, and it was I found it very interesting, and maybe it serves like a metaphor for TLC. It was the ocean, okay, and it was the shore, and just within like 1 meter from the shore, it was like a small pond that it was full with ocean water, but it was a pond. It wasn't part of the ocean, and inside the pond it was like one fish, okay, and it was going around and all of that. And eventually that fish decided to jump, go through the 1 meter in the sand, and then just swim into the open ocean. Okay, so that's how I understand TLC. YouTube at large and the internet is like the open ocean, and TLC is like this pond. Grimm brought to the table this idea of the flotillas, and yeah, I think our flotillas exist within the pond. Okay, this is how I understand it. But for many reasons, people found their way into TLC, and it's fine. And maybe in some cases, we find people like, I don't know, visiting TLC, like I don't know, the bigger names like and Jonathan Pajot, for example, having like a conversation with Paul Van der Klee. And that's something cool because it gets into our attention, and because it happens within the space of TLC, we really appreciate that, right? And sometimes, in rare cases, we also have the other thing going on around, like a smaller channel gets featured into an even larger channel. So I was waiting to see more and more of that happening, like someone like Paul, to mention Paul or Grim or Chad even, getting invited to speak with um, some of the bigger names on their channels. I didn't see that happening, to be honest, but over the years, over the last 4 years, there has been some progress being made in that regard, and I recognize that, and I like it, you know. Um, yeah, I was expecting more things to happen. For some reason, they did not happen yet. I don't know why. Maybe some people, they feel more comfortable within our safe space or brave space, how we call it, and that's okay. That's okay. That's fine with me. I am willing to step away in a way from TLC, and the reason I am gonna continue listening is because I cannot separate myself from being someone like a normal guy listening to YouTube, you know. So at the end of the day, maybe I'm not a participant, but I will still be like a consumer of YouTube content, and I like TLC, and that's why I will keep listening to at least some of the channels, you know. And yeah,
That's
I
gonna
don't know.
be that kind of self control. I don't know that I have. Every time I say that I'm not going to log on, or I'm not going to say something in the chats, and I try to I try to restrain myself. I'm still working on that. But that's I think if you can do that, that's pretty awesome, especially because it almost allows you to have a better perspective sometimes on things. It's like that old saying, the spectator can see the game better than the
Yeah,
players.
yeah. And one of the things that I really appreciate um, from my interaction within TLC is exactly this, what you mentioned right now about the developing these skills of self-control. Like sometimes we participate in the hive mind and we just really disagree with something being said, and we need to like restrain ourselves from posting like a comment that might be not productive, to put it like that. So yeah.
Well, since you've seen the evolution of TLC, um, I mean, I mean, you were when you were around. I'm not, I won't go crazy with like the waves and where you came in and all that stuff. People kind of go a little nuts with that. But what do you think the evolution has been, that you've seen? Like the thing you liked obviously in the beginning of it, and then also where you. I mean, I know we can't predict, but where you see it going, maybe even hope it goes.
Yeah. Um, well, first of all, one of the aspects that really lured me into the corner was this mystifying component. Like things were a bit fuzzy, so there was like an adventurous element in terms of solving the not the mystery, but like figuring out what is going on. So that was the initial aspect that was present at the beginning. And maybe that's actually one of the aspects that also others that find the corner feel. They have this element of, I don't want to call it curiosity per se, but it's something that attracts us, that it's because it's not well defined, and that's an interesting thing for us. And when I came into the corner, yeah, I'm also not good with the waves, but I think I was the last. I was either the last of the second wave, something like that, or the first of the third, or in the transition in between. So, for example, when when I really entered the corner, some people were around that are not still around now. Like, I don't know if you remember Dali.
No, I
Dali
don't.
was, yeah, Dali was a beautiful soul. She's from South Africa, and she was really nice, and I believe that she was bringing something valuable to the corner. As far as I am concerned, she was the first that she was trying to promote like her own understanding in a very sensitive way. And anyway, for some reasons, individuals like Dali and some others, they went away. Okay, so I don't want to say that TLC wasn't welcoming enough for those people, whatever that is, for some group of people. Um, but sometimes people, they come, they check the TLC, then they go on their merry way, and that's completely fine. In other cases, some people find TLC, they start exploring, and they stay for a longer period. Um, and this is the case, especially for the OGs. Like when we have someone like Luke. Luke was wave one, so that like he was from the very beginning, along with Paul and some of the others like Job and Jess and these guys, and Sherry. Even Sherry was wave one, and then we had like wave two, that basically was Chad and Grim. So you have that wave that it's still around, and it's great. And wave three, I think it started with CPAX. So when CPAX entered, that was like the beginning of the third wave, and then you guys came with the morning wave with Chris Howard, and yeah, that's great, man, because you guys brought into the scene something different. Like it was time wise, it was more cozy, it was built in a way, in a fundamental way. It Chris built his live stream based on Chat's live streams, so there was a continuation with the and daily reflections and opening and dropping the link and welcoming people. If somebody does not enter, we're gonna listen to Chris having his dialogue and going through his watch history. So it's a very neat format, to put it like that, and I really love that, and I appreciate this extra element that you guys brought it to the corner. Like you, Chris, Scott, Olson, you guys brought something new to the corner, and I find it really refreshing. And also some other people like Ethan. Ethan, he is also doing a very good job. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of organic too. there was a bunch of us that always obviously were starting to watch Chris Howard on a regular basis. He was
Mhm.
kept this thing going, and he had this consistency. And it was always like the people that would be in the comments, Olson and Scott, and and Ethan was doing his periodic before Scott or before Chris, and it was like, yeah, that's cool. And then we kind of were talking about the way that we were respecting times and trying to make sure that because I mean, if you're going to be on in the morning, it's like, well, I want to listen to that person too. I don't want to be doing a a thing when he's doing a thing, and it's like,
Yeah.
so it really not only does it encourage everybody to focus on who's doing their thing, and it's a respect thing, but it's also it keeps everyone else not having to make those decisions, like having to, the poll, the allegiance poll type thing, or a competition. Obviously, it doesn't matter. I mean, like if, like I really wanted to do this with you, and I thought, well, maybe I'll do it live, and I'll, if somebody has questions, I'm like, that'd be so cool. I mean, I know that
Mhm.
tons of people would like to ask you questions, and but then I started realizing, well, I really want to just talk with him, and I don't really want to put a time constraint on it. So I don't want other people to feel like, oh, I really want to listen to this, but I also want to listen to Chris. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole TLC is just amazing, and I do like. There are a lot of people in the TLC aren't a big fan of the structure, like
Mm.
but there are people that do, and I think that the like this morning crew between the Dawn Patrol and Olson and reading the liturgy for the week, so that you kind of soak it up. I forget what Scott. I just love the fact that he's banging his ideas around. It's kind of like what I do. I mean, we kind of just throw ideas out there for the morning, and we just discuss it amongst friends, and
Mhm.
of course we'll get our critics in there too, which is cool because we're not really
Yes.
afraid of having them come in. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I really love this self-organizational aspect that you bring to the table, like respecting the programming, like the live stream programming. I really love that, and I really appreciate it because it is such small things that they make a community, like respecting the space of others and allowing room for others to also do their thing. And not only because you want to allow them that, it's because you also want to be part of what they are doing. So I really love that. It's a great thing. It's a great thing.
So kind of I wanted to ask you about, like, I already asked you a little bit about what you think the future of the TLC would be like. I think this kind of, I don't know, kind of seems a little bit like that, like the programming, like the idea that
Mhm.
if like I know Scott Olson and I share a calendar, so that we can kind of, like, if Scott's working and it'd be bleeding into his work, but he can still participate, but he has other things he's got to focus on.
Yeah.
So, we'll lock in, Olson and I'll lock in on those days that, he's going to be working. And so, like, it kind of helps us formulate, like, it's almost like I wish we could do more of that, collaboration and setting up time frames that people can know this person's going to be on. Yeah, of course you're going to see it on a recording later,
Yeah.
but I mean, do you see that being the future? I mean, I love how Parker made those TV sets. That's
Yeah.
so cool. I mean, and then he
Yeah.
just did this. I don't even know what you call that. What do you call the graph that he created?
Yeah, the K cluster one, yes, with the
Yes.
neighbors. Yeah, the network graph. Yeah, actually, that's pretty interesting. I think it needs some fine tuning in order to be uh, more accurate. But already as it stands, it's very interesting because even if we focus on the just on the flow of information and the arrows from one channel to the other, but also the signed arrows, like where information starts and where it lands. That's by itself it's very, very useful to understand. I don't think it has. I don't think as it stands, it is an actual depiction of the connectivity between the various channels, because it's this we shouldn't make the mistake of conflating our YouTube channels with ourselves, with our individual self, because the algorithms, and I'm not just saying that for Parker's work. Parker is doing a great job, but in general speaking, the algorithms fail to capture this this complete picture of what is going on. It's like on the surface level, because if Brett includes like a link into Scott's Am I Driving video, then the algorithm is gonna pick it up and make a link there, right? But maybe that's not the case. Maybe Brett forgets to include the link, right? So something is going on there. So yeah, it will be fascinating if Parker is able to create like an additional feature on the TLC search engine that includes this programming, like of YouTube live streams. And I remember when many years ago, one of my favorite activities was like every Thursday I was going to the kiosk and buying a TV guide for my dad, for my father, and he was always like really invested into his TV guide, because he wanted to have like an understanding of how he's gonna structure his time, you know. So I really think that something like that will be cool to have.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like that might be a really good place potentially to have a centralized calendar or TV guide, right? Where people can sign up for slots. Like if it's a consistent thing, then he can kind of, keep it consistent. I don't know how. I mean, obviously it probably needs more people being consistent. I think for it to be, unless it is literally, I just sign up for the slot, kind of like PBK's thing where you're signing up for slots.
Yeah, the hurdle in this case and in similar cases, it's the extra step, like the owner of the YouTube channel needs to go and register the spot. So because that part is not automatic, I think that adds this extra level of complexity there, and maybe that's why it's a bit difficult to implement it. But yeah, if it happens, that will be awesome. Yeah.
So, did you go to both original ARCs? And for people that don't know, it's the Alliance for Responsible Citizens. It's kind of it is the answer to the WEF, the World Economic Forum. I look at it as the real people of Davos instead of this. I guess it's been characterized as top-down. Davos is top-down, whereas ARC is bottom-up, I think. And I guess that's probably accurate. But were you at both of those before, the first two?
Only on the second one, and I'm also going to join the third one now in a few days, like a month.
Do you have high expectations for it, or are you not setting any expectations?
Not really. I'm not setting any expectations. I am just going there in order to. I want to demystify it. So I want to see what is going on. Like if it's like another Davos, I don't think that that is gonna work. If it's something different, I think this time around it will be very telling, because most probably Jordan Peterson will not be there. Jonathan Pageau will be, but Jordan Peterson will not be there. So it will be interesting to compare the previous one from last year with this year in terms of participation, in terms of coverage of topics, guests, and all of that. So yeah, that's my idea. I want to go there and I want to investigate, and I want to convince myself if it's good or not so good. And I will decide what to do right after that. What I will surely do is like when I come back, I will debrief people in the corner, like, because I am not aware of anyone else going this year, so maybe that will be helpful to others.
Yeah, I would say PVK. I would think that he would be a real good person to be able to give it justice. To ask you the questions that that I think would be probably pretty important, especially since he's been to one, and our connection, right? From the TLC. Yeah, it would be neat if they, I don't know. It's like, part of me had this hope that the thing would be inspiring to the elite, they have this little Davos thing and it's all constructed and almost like probably mind control, they'll have their agendas out there because this is what, this is where they want to push things. And probably it would get pushed in most cases. But then the more and more people the popular people that got there, it just even got worse. It seemed like, it became a red carpet thing. Whereas ARC, you'd hope that ARC would not be that, that it would be, really brilliant people coming together, posing some really interesting things and making people think, about how could this be achievable to do things better, in whatever category, from AI to, home crisis and just the categories are endless that they talk about and can talk about.
Yeah. Apart from Davos, there are also a few others a bit smaller than Davos conferences that they are taking place annually. One of them is the Krynica Economic Forum taking place in Poland, in a mountainous region in Poland. And the other one is Delphi that takes place in Athens. It's another economic forum. And I also participated in the one in Poland. Okay. What I can say is that the scale was a bit smaller, but you still got like many high-level people there. So that specific forum was heavily based on Davos. So you got like the head of states, but you mostly got like ministers and that type of thing. In the actual ground, what is happening is like you have these different rooms, these spaces, these big spaces, where you have debates and lectures, and at the end of the day, it's like a forum for politics, and it's the kind of politics that is happening at the national scale. So you have like when I visited, it was like in 2019. You had a strong influence from the Russia lobby, trying to influence the situation that was going on in Crimea, in Ukraine back then. So there was a lot of tension there. And what I want to say is that, concluding, is that maybe these type of forums that they are based on, heavily based on Davos, they just act at that level of the lobbies. Okay. ARC, I don't think is that. I think ARC is like a selection of individuals that they honestly try to create something new that will probably will be the opposing force to Davos and that specific strand. Like it's not that we don't care about the national level, the states, but we also care about the individuals, right? So it's not only how the nations interact with each other, which is important and it has its place because it's a very real thing and wars are happening about that. But also it's very important to start thinking and finding ways of how we can improve what is happening within our cities, within our neighborhoods even. So that's what I'm expecting to see from ARC. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your take on it when you come back. That'll really be awesome. If you were able to talk into these AI spaces there, because I'm sure that's going to be a pretty big topic.
Yes.
And I had mentioned to you when I emailed you, like one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, I guess I can say how I feel to use AI, but I like how I actually use it, um, versus how people are using it versus how Christians should be using it, and I
Yes.
and I
Yes.
think there's a huge difference in using it, as a tool versus, much more things than that. So I don't know if you could speak on your ideas of where you think it should be going and what Christians should be doing with it.
Yeah. And generally speaking, the way we interact with this new technology, um, it's very, very interesting. We need to be careful with it. We need to be careful in the sense that we shouldn't be giving our private data to these models. Um, we shouldn't disclose like personal things to them if possible, because they say that they don't remember, but the profiling things they make sure to remember those. So yeah, and be careful about sharing uh, personal data. Um, be careful in terms of not disclosing things like your health status, sharing biometric data with the AIs and all of that. Apart from that, in terms of using it from the Christian perspective, the only thing I can say is that we need to exercise a bit of prudence, especially when we generate images from AI that depict Christian themes, especially the figure of the Lord. Like I personally, I don't like that. I don't like that, and I don't want to see that happening. But I know people are doing it. So yeah, it's a
I'm
thing.
guilty of it. I did it with the intro to Flockalypse Now. It was just kind of I only added the Jesus part because I felt like I wanted to make sure that people knew where my
Mhm.
channel was
Mhm.
coming from, and I really didn't
Yes.
know how to do that um, in a different way. And the apocalypse angle was more about how it was kind of getting, it's a hostile place in the TLC. Like this channel is more like in the TLC, whereas the other one is going to be more teaching. And
Mhm.
so, um, and when I get my computer, I'll work on editing and learning how to do all that stuff. But this was going to be more unruly, you know, like I was going to have people on that were going to object, and I've had Claire on and different people like that were going to
Yeah.
push back. And so I kind of wanted to make sure they knew from the beginning where I was coming from. That was the idea. But I also understand what you're saying about the biometrics and things like that. You know, I was thinking about doing a bunch of movie scenes with guys from the TLC, you know, like in an AI way. And I had did one, and I mentioned it to someone, and they said, "Did you do something without my permission?" And I was like, it dawned on me that okay,
Yes.
I need to get permission, like this, you know, to respect people in
Yeah.
this space,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I will share a small anecdotal story here. You know branding, right? We
yeah,
do it in Grim Grease channel.
that
So
was my idea.
yeah. So um, I was playing around recently, and I made like um, I was creating a new branding, okay, and I didn't release it, but I really liked a small footage that Scott shared from his garden. Like he was doing something in his garden, like taking some soil and moving it to another side, and I took that still because uh, I, out of preference, and for my own creativity, I opt for using free tools. I never buy licenses to tools. So the tool that I have allows me only to take like a very small screenshot of the video. I cannot download the whole thing. So I just took a very small scene with Scott like doing his thing, and I set it into the branding, and I liked it. Okay. And then I said to myself, I'm not gonna release it because I didn't get permission from Scott to do it. So yeah, that was I fully understand what you are saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's certain people in the TLC that seem to be very clearly open to not having a problem, and like Scott is that type of person, you know. But again, you
Mhm.
don't want to assume. But like with Grim Grizz, like he clearly has no problem with him using his face in AI. You know, he
Yeah.
generates great thumbnails and fun, entertaining stills, and even and then Ezra kind of did his thing with the owl flying off the bookshelf. So yeah,
Yeah.
I guess everybody's going to have to, I guess, figure out where they land on the biometric stuff, and you know, like, you know, it's one
Mhm.
thing that it does. It'll probably be doing it off the videos that we put up on the internet anyway, if it wanted to. However, when you're voluntarily submitting the data, you know, it is probably a different thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I
Well,
wanted to say real quick before you, because I do want to hear what you're about to say. I was, you know, like the way I use AI
mhm.
primarily. Now I use the Logos Bible software, and what really jumped out at me was the fact that it has a set group of books, and they're pretty exhaustive. It's a massive resource. So their AI, you can literally, you know, narrow down your AI field. So like you can have a collection of books that you're choosing to ask a question, and it searches and answers you through that narrow constraint. You can also do it on the whole library. That way you're getting perspectives from a Catholic side, an Orthodox side, you know, all the
Mhm.
people that have ever wrote about those people, and had commentaries on those people and the things they wrote. So the way that it's being framed in YouTube and the people that are promoting it is that it's AI with guardrails, you know, and I, you know, to me that seems right. You know, that seems like okay, we know the weights, right? That's the term that's used. So to me, I feel like that could be a responsible usage of it as a tool, but to ask it, um, I guess. the more intimate things, right? That's where it starts getting a little difficult.
Yeah, yeah. This whole thing with guard rails, it's interesting. I remember 2 years ago, or maybe it was last year, Jordan Peterson, before he went away due to his health issues, he was working on creating a model where he trained the model on all the works of Nietzsche. So his idea was like to create an LLM where he will be able to interact with it as if it was Nietzsche um, itself, like the person. And I found that like very attractive as a notion initially. But then I thought to myself, okay, if we create two different instances of that with exactly the same corpus, like the complete corpus, and we pose to level A and to level B exactly the same question, the replies that we get back will not be the same. So there is something happening there that we often omit. So these models, they are statistical models, and when they reply to our prompts, they do it with extreme confidence, like, hey, this is the answer you want. But that shouldn't be the case if the answers are different, right? Like the level of confidence shouldn't be the same. But the level of confidence is always like very high. So what is happening behind the scenes is that in reality, when you ask a question that is outside of the normal scope, these models, because they are statistical models and they are built in on the transformer architecture that includes the attention module, but also something that has to do with a measure of uncertainty, because we are talking about possibilities and probabilities. Even in the cases that the question is difficult and the uncertainty is very high, like the statistical uncertainty, the model will still reply with this high level of confidence because the high level of confidence got hard coded in the model. So that's the part that we are missing, and that's why when you confront the model and you notice like the error and you report that error, the model will say, okay, I made a mistake. Here's the real answer, and then you will can keep playing this game. And yeah, the reason they are doing it is because it's a technological product, so they want us to keep spending our time and attention using these tools. So yeah,
It
we need
reminds me
to.
of it reminds me
Yes.
of old I grew up in I grew up on a car lot
Mhm.
at an auto mall, right? So it's like four major car companies and they were all joined together under one giant mall.
Mhm.
And I, eventually worked myself into sales. And I was good because I like talking to people, and I had energy as a young kid, and so I did well. Um, but I noticed how I was becoming good had to do with me reading the person. And so, like, if I started talking about a Toyota and I saw their brow furl, or their eyes light up, it's like these are cues that I'd pick up on, and I would roll with it further down that thing. So it kind of reminds me of that. And then I also knew that if I said something that was like I could sense that they were not very happy with what I had just getting the information I just conveyed to them. I even if it was true, I would be, my one of my gifts would be kind of to back up and kind of roll into a whole nother category that I already know I had success with them. So to get us back into our relationship, and hopefully that was just an anomaly in the middle of the conversation that gets shadowed over. And that's how I feel like these things are. They definitely are ego stroking. They're definitely wrong a lot of times. So when you give it the furrowed brow by saying, "I caught you. This is not
Yeah.
truth." Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. I'm glad you clarified that. And it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it just sounds like a salesman that's not very good at his job,
Yeah.
which
No,
makes
no.
me worry about when it does get good.
Yeah, yeah. I completely agree with you. And there is something called nudging. Like they nudge us into do something. So yeah, maybe we're talking about buying something, like getting nudged by the sales person, or this is also something that is happening even within academia. Like when you are a published author and you submit your paper in a journal, for example, the journal will keep poking you to resubmit like more papers because they want this inflow of papers because it's their business, right? They get their money from publishing, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter that they don't pay the authors. What matters is like for them to gather the new articles for them to publish, and they keep the cycle going. So yeah, there is a lot of nudging going on, and nudging is also one of the things that got hard coded within LLMs. I am convinced about that part, and it is a sales tactic at the end of the day. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very interesting.
for me right now, at least right now, I think if I use it like a calculator, right, in that thinking, that I want to ask a specific question, it may give me an answer, but I filter it through, did I ask this question good enough? And if I could see that it's focusing strongly in one direction and it's not the direction I'm going, then the prompt, and you can kind of fine tune your prompt, and the better you are at getting at prompting, the better your result will probably be. Part of me doesn't think it's all scandalous. Part of me thinks that it's trying to learn you too. And like if I'm asking questions from a theological aspect, as an example, like, and I'm talking about like Gemini or Grok or something like that. If I'm asking questions in that arena, it's figuring out over time that, okay, this guy is from this tradition, this is kind of the angle, these are the things he's asked about. So it's kind of layering on top of that. But I do agree with you, like if you had two Nietzsche AIs in silos, maybe the first question, if you ask the exact same question, it may spit out the same answer. But as the questions get different, the layers change, right? And so like these things evolve based off of the prompt instead of staying, you know, factual, because they're really, they really they want to pull you into the outcome of the result that they're going to spit out at you. And I do think what you're saying, like the idea of, the Nietzsche idea came out clearly, and it's already been screwed around with, having a Jesus AI, which is ludicrous because you think of the things that he said, it's profound, but if we believe the Bible to be the breathed word of God, um, we would want to encompass the entire Bible, and even scholars have a hard time using it contextually. So the type of information that would be given to somebody that's trying to use it as a pastor could be detrimental and misguided. And my only worry is the new. So like I relied on a calculator, right? But that's only because I knew how to do the equation already. So I already knew how to do it. It just saved me time in order to do it. So
Yeah.
like if we're using AIs in that way, we get the result and then we go maybe verify this result. Like some of them source things, which is important. Like where are they getting the source? Like Logos is great with that. You click on the sentence that it said, it'll show you the book it's coming from. Okay, that's where that came from. Makes sense to me why it would be saying that. What do you think of that?
Yeah. First of all, I agree with you. I think that um, some institutions, they some theological institutions, they try to incorporate AI into their um, toolkits in a way. I I don't like that. I don't like that, especially as you said, when we have things like AI in Jesus and all of that. I don't like that. Uh, I like the idea of using AI as a tool, as a calculator, let's say, like a glorified calculator. That's okay. That's okay. Maybe it's the proper stance to have, because now what is happening is that the the mega corporations behind these models, they are pushing a change in the narrative from our product is a tool that you can use to help you, to our tool is, it's not a tool, it's your co-creator. So that is way more sinister, because it in a way it has like a clear eyesight for any intellectual property rights that might arise from the interaction of someone with an LLM. So yeah, I don't think that it's really useful. If we keep using it as a tool, I think that's the best way, and maybe we can um, use it in terms of, yeah, we want to make like an we want to use this tool to analyze or go through a very specific passage. Maybe it's from the um, a text, like a philological text. Maybe it's a verse in the Bible, right? In that cases, maybe it's useful using LLMs, but still, it's not something that we need to take without being like extremely cautious. It's not something like that. It's just something else that, yeah, I'm looking this specific commentary on this verse of the Bible, and here is what the Gemini told me. Okay, because you know the verse, right? You can clearly exercise discernment in that case, and you by yourself you can evaluate the value of these tools, right? So if you if your prompt is coming from a topic that you deeply know, you are deeply familiar with, that increases your chances of potentially catching the errors that the model will give you. You know.
Yeah, that's the thing I worry about. So in the last election, listening to how websites were getting scrubbed and articles were getting edited, um, the narrative that they wanted today blew me away. I listened to a podcast with Larry Sanger, one of the co-founders of Wiki, and he was sharing his concerns with how how Wiki has changed. It wasn't what he had thought it should have been, and how they have control over the content. And a lot of people use it. Obviously, you're not supposed to cite it in papers and things like that, but same with Wiki. If you use it as a tool to get you to another source, it may not be the only source. That's the issue, right? When I was listening to him talk about books and his concerns with books that were online, that he wasn't, he was worried about the trustworthiness of the book online. And that kind of like, I bought into it, like I bought, anyway, it's a jump drive that has like 70,000 books on it. From Homer to, whatever. And I mean, tons of philosophical books, tons of fiction, tons of, because I could see the internet changing, that kind of freaks me out. I've always been a paper book guy. People make fun of me. I mean, I get the audiobook because it helps me learn better. I'm very similar to Alan Ohm in the way that I process information. So it's helpful for me to read and listen kind of simultaneously, for me to really grasp it. But it's really helpful when I come into spaces like this and I have dialogue about this content. So the whole internet thing and the Wikipedia stuff and how, I don't know, it just seems like this next generation, there's a chance that they may not be even privy to the fact that this is how it is. And they just trust so much, or they're hip to it and they're not going to trust it,
Yeah. Okay. Few comments there. First of all, I really like the initial idea, the general idea behind Wikipedia. Okay, I find it like fascinating because it's a free online encyclopedia. It's not behind a paywall, so I like that. I don't like what is happening, like with all the edits and I don't know. There's a lot of things going on there, a lot of wars and going on on each different Wikipedia entry. Small parenthesis here. This is something that it is well known within the mathematical community. Wikipedia articles that are about mathematics, for some strange reason, they are very good and very accurate. So I don't know why that happened, but for some reason that's the case. Closing the parenthesis. Now, this is something that a lot of people are not aware of, but when they were designing these architectures for what became the LLMs we use today, they literally ripped off the knowledge graph of Wikipedia. Like, not the articles, how the different entries are linked together in a graph. So it's very similar with the graph that Parker made for TLC, but it has to do with topics and how they are connected. So you start from this field and you go down to that, and then you can move a layer even lower, and this layer is connected with all these different other entries, right? This is the knowledge graph. And that's powerful because it's for a company interested in artificial intelligence to develop their own graph, their own knowledge graph. It's super expensive. But Wikipedia was able to do it for some strange reason, because it is communal project. So this knowledge graph got created in an organic manner, and it has value because of that, exactly because of that. So yeah, Wikipedia articles are not very valid apart from the exception with mathematics, topics related to mathematics. But the knowledge graph is very, very important, especially in terms of AI and these tools that we have.
And that's the thing, with the AI stuff, it's scouring and scrubbing the internet. Obviously, Wikipedia would be a place that it would scour from, and I guess like listening to Sanger's interview on that topic, he was talking about. I mean, I guess there is gatekeepers at the door. They're supposed to be vetted and things like that. People that can actually, I guess, approve or unapprove things. Math to me makes sense, though. It's kind of like, I mean, at least we're not at the place legitimately where 2 + 2 = 5, and that can't be like held up to like, look, this doesn't work. They got proofs, they have theorems, they have things that they can, I mean, obviously, some of the abstract stuff or the scientific stuff could be screwed around with the people that aren't smart enough to do the research, and they're relying on information that they're finding from there for their research. But I can see how the AI, I guess all of it is interesting. I was fascinated by your discussion about cognition maps or cognitive maps. I know that's one of your passions, and learning about how you're implementing the fuzzy cognitive maps, and it kind of made me think of, well, I guess I was fascinated. This blew me away. 20 years ago, I ran across a Google video from, I think it was the BBC, and it was about Sigmund Freud's nephew, The Century of Self. I don't know if I'm sure you've seen that. And for me, I don't know, how old was I? I wasn't even 30. And yeah, it had to have come out at best early 2000. And I was like, this is fascinating, the way that, somebody from the outside is able to diagnose America in a way that to me was very accurate. It wasn't like, you can say it was spin and it was, but these are things that that happened, like Sigmund Freud's nephew literally took his book, literally used it as a business model for public relations, and just his with him being interviewed in a very grainy way when he was still alive, saying like, why didn't you, why'd you call it public relations? And he's like, because propaganda, the Nazis made it bad, or the Germans made it bad. And I'm like, holy smokes. Literally, they get women to smoke cigarettes. Just like the whole thing was like, this was like the first time I'm realizing the psyop, as we like to say, was a real thing. So when you were talking about cognition, and I was thinking about Sigmund Freud and his idea of the masses, and how it, he was more, I think, interested in, it seemed like he was more interested in how to control the masses than he was what's happening to the masses and why they do what they do. And I'm wondering if that's more why you are more of a Jung guy than a Freud guy.
Yeah, the whole thing with Barnes is crazy. There is also a very interesting thread going from Freud to Barnes and the whole propaganda thing, but also to I think it's his son, I'm not sure about that, but one of the executives behind Netflix, it's also connected with that lineage. So there is also something there. Yeah.
It's
And
like surprise.
yeah. So yeah, I don't like Freud. I really detest Freud, and the reason is because I think he has like a, I don't know what he's offering as the answer to the psychological troubles of individuals, going all the way back to it's all about this very specific thing, like it's what happened when you are young, and it has to do with uh, sex and la 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 la. Yeah, I think that's very flat. Um it's very low resolution of what is happening in such instances, and for some reason people they really supported this view, but okay, people also supported communism at some point. So yeah, get ideas, bad ideas get momentum for different reasons over the decades and the centuries. So yeah, Jung is not mono-dimensional. It's not a low resolution. It's like high resolution, and in some cases is, I'm gonna use a term from art here. You can have like a caricature, like you can go to the street and find a street artist and ask him to make a caricature, a portrait of you, and that's fine because it has its use, right? You are supporting the local artist in the street. You also take this and put it on your fridge because it's nice or whatever. Okay, it has its value. I'm not diminishing that. But then you have some artists that they can create hyper realistic portraits. Like you look at the painting and you say, this must be a photograph. Like this is so real that it's hyper real. It's like it even transcends the medium. Like it is as if it's moving beyond the painting into the realm of photography. And the way people are doing it is either by using extremely big canvases or by painting with very small brushes. Like there was a very strange peculiarity about Salvador Dali, and many people they don't like Dali because he was like a sellout. He was doing all these different things. He was creating films. He was doing sets for theaters. He was very commercial, to put it like that. But he was also a craftsman. And when he has a painting where he painted with a brush, that the brush had only an eyelid on it. So he was able to create like a very surreal, because it was surreal, his paintings. It was a very surreal painting in the sense that you couldn't even distinguish it from a photograph. It was that type of surreal. So yeah, I believe that Jung was able to explain the West in terms of psychology through the East, through the Far East. So he was able to veer into what was going on not only in his part of the world or into the New World, but also what was going on into the other side, like, I don't know, China and whatever. And many people, they call this like a comparative mythology or comparative religious studies. Is something that like others, like for example Joseph Campbell, the guy who came up with the whole myth of the hero and all of that. I really believe that these thinkers, they were able to tap into that very specific and rare trend of opening up our research exploration to not only include what is happening now here, but also what happened centuries ago everywhere or elsewhere. So this is why I really appreciate Jung's work. He was a scholar at the end of the day. He wasn't like only a psychologist or analytical psychologist or a psychiatrist. He was like a scholar and a researcher. That's why I got really interested in his work. So, yeah.
All right. So we're getting a little grainy, so I want to make sure that I keep a hold of you. Let's see. Yeah, it looks good now.
Mhm.
Yeah. So the cognitive maps, I guess my question, because clearly all of this has kind of formated, is your formation for how you've kind of done your research and some of the ways that you interact with some of the things that you're doing with these. I'm just intrigued by the cognitive maps. I think it's so interesting to me. I thought that when I was watching that documentary, the idea that so many people could sign up for a particular school of thought and be engulfed in it. I guess I always knew there were things like cults, but it seemed like this was like organic cult, like the freedom of expression. I mean, I mean, I guess you could argue it, capitalism and marketing to people and making them feel like individuals as they were purchasing a specific car or a specific color of car, or, you know, we want to express ourselves through all these things, and then it seemed like everybody just lost it, like the way that like people, and they kind of got sucked into this crazy town. And then we came into a generation of self-help where all the books, that the biggest books, it seems like more self books were sold than anything else. And I remember a period of time where my mom and dad had more of those type of books. I mean, albeit Christian, but it was all framed in that idea, so I guess it's just fascinating to me, cognition, why people think the way they do, how they develop thinking the things they do. And I just, I don't know. I just love to hear you talk about that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I'm fascinated by cognition and cognitive science in general. It's one of the areas that I am actively researching to this day. And recently, I decided to focus, like micro focus, on something called metacognition and metacognitive skills. Metacognition, it's like thinking about one's own thinking, and what you are trying to do is like you are trying to understand why your stream of thought um, unfolds in a specific way, and what types of potentially cognitive biases are there that you are completely unaware of. Every human being has the inherent capacity to make errors. I believe that we're not um, flawless in any way. So um, if we exercise this type of, if we cultivate this metacognition as a skill, maybe we're able to catch some of our biases that we are not even aware that they are there. Like, for example, it's okay if okay, let me put it this way. Uh, Me as Harris, I have a few people that they are my best friends. Okay. I have a cognitive bias towards my friends in terms of favoritism. Okay. And that's human because I love them. It's my best friends, they're my best friend. Now, if I change my hat, okay, and now I am not like just a friend. I am like an employer, and I am in the process of hiring people. And if my best friend comes and I give him his job because I really love him, that's one thing, right? Maybe it's something that it might happen. But if the job that I am opening is something that is critical, like, I don't know, it's a I want to hire a pilot to fly small planes. If I hire my friend that doesn't know how to fly a plane, that means I am doing very terrible job, right? So I need to be able to distinguish the two, recognize that I have this cognitive bias of favoritism towards my friend, but I understand the the environment where I am not allowed to um, I am not allowed to let that cognitive bias damage my initiative or whatever it's happening. I don't know if that is helpful as an example. Okay. Yeah. Now going back to a bit to this metacognition, because I am interested in this specific topic within cognitive science, and I'm also interested in how researchers interact with these large language models. To me, it's a very fruitful area to explore, and maybe like even write potentially an article there. Like, it's not only that each individual has these cognitive biases, but because the LLM models they got traded to human data that precludes biases, it means that the responses that we get also have these cognitive biases that they are hidden, you know. So when we say that we need to exercise metacognition, we also need to exercise it not only with our daily interactions we between our friends and our collaborators and all of that, or between ourselves within our heads, but these days, as of 2026, we better apply that also to our interaction with the LLMs, because there is something going on there, and we need to be extra careful, to catch it.
Yeah, it's funny because I think that there's probably obviously there's multiple schools of thought of how people see AI or
Mhm.
LLMs. I don't think that they a lot of times people are like, well, I'm asking this thing something, and it's not an emotional being, therefore it's giving me this factual, as a matter of fact, unbiased perspective. And I'm like, yeah, but see, here's the problem. One, it's programmed by people that have those things. Two, it's drawing its data from the internet, which has been created from an emotion or
Yes.
some of this stuff that we're talking about. So the idea that you're somehow immune because it's just this perfect little robot that is super factual and just as a matter of fact about things is not accurate, you know. And then there's the people that are over emphasizing that stuff, you know, where, you know, I don't know, like, you know, the other side of the pendulum, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's
I don't
good.
know.
Yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead.
know I don't know if in the future, because now the consensus in within artificial intelligence circles is that LLMs, they have reached their peak and they are not gonna get any better from what we currently have. Maybe maybe things are gonna get worse, but not better. So a lot of people, they are trying to think of new ways for artificial intelligence to get to the next level, and that might mean moving beyond the current transformer architecture into something completely different.
That's a
And
good point. You remember when Steve Jobs in the 80s, he had this vision of of cell phones in general, you know, and he was talking, it was like it was a lost lecture that he did. And he was talking about how when he goes to a computer, he just logs into the computer and he accesses his home computer wherever he's logging in at, you know, and he's talking about the cloud. And because he's like, this obsession that people have to have their data locally is just, we need to get off this. And then we saw the evolution of that and the negative consequences of having all your data technically in a cloud and not backed up to a hard server. Similarly with this thing, it's like I envision a time where people potentially could say, yeah, it's value that an AI is learning on itself and getting better, but I could see a marketing plan where, no, we're going to sell you this software and you're going to put the AI in your home, and this AI is going to build an AI just for you in the back and forth that you have with it, and it's not going to be impacted by the rest of the world, kind of like the Logos AI guardrails, right? But you're buying this with the hopes that this thing is going to have guardrails based off of who you are and what you believe and what you think and what you're learning. I don't know how. I'm just thinking out loud, you know.
no. What you are saying is valid. Is what is part of this move towards local LLMs. Like don't allow your model to connect to the internet. do it locally, you know. So something like that. Yeah.
Did you ever read any of Isaac Asimov's books?
Well,
Any of his sci-fi?
well, my late father was a vivid reader of sci-fi and cowboy stories, westerns, and Asimov was one of his favorite authors in terms of sci-fi. And I am not really into sci-fi. I think I prefer high fantasy in the fiction genre, like Tolkien and that type of mythopoetic fiction and mythology. But I remember something from Asimov. I remember that there is a story that he wrote. I think it was a short story, and it was about a time traveler that he wanted to meet Jesus, and he programmed the machine to go back in time, and he arrived somewhere in Jerusalem, and he was going around asking everyone, "Have you seen Jesus? Have you seen these guys this guy called Jesus Christ, and everybody was like, no, 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 no. And what is happening? I'm gonna spoil it here, but what happened then is like, because people, they were asking him back like, tell us a few more details about this guy. He said this and this and this and this. And what happened at the end is that they took the guy and they crucified him. So that was Isaac Asimov's big idea.
The time traveler created the Jesus and became the
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah,
all
yeah.
in one move.
That was Asimov. So,
No, he did have this long series of books. I want to say it was about 7 of them, and they kind of went from the Foundation series, which has been made popular on Apple TV, and then obviously it doesn't do it justice, just like Tolkien stuff. But iRobot, that was another part of that, and he tried to bridge the gaps in these stories. But like his finale chronologically was called Foundation and Earth, and it was this premise that if I remember, what I liked about it was there was critical thinking skills that were always being done in the books, like, so you had a hero and he was critically analyzing things, and he was making determinations, and and then obviously the way books are with their arcs and stuff, he drops the hammer on how he figured this out and how he solved the problem, and and it's whatever. And it's interesting because like the Harry Seldon character in the Foundation series is kind of like not what you're doing, but the idea is the cognitive, him being able to map and predict the future based off the masses, based off of the data. So it's like he creates this mathematical formula to where he's able to see what's going to happen, and he can predict these crises that are going to happen. And it could go one of two ways, but the ultimate goal is to prevent like complete utter darkness forever. And but we can minimize it with only like 10,000 years of darkness. But either way, it's going to be bad, So that's the initial premise. By the time you get to the final book, it comes to this archetype savior guy where he's one-on-one with this organism that apparently he is everything. He's the planet, he's the trees, he's on his planet talking with this being, and the being is the entire planet. And he is able to make the it's a hive mind type thing where they all communicate with each other. Everything just works in this perfect system. And he's giving the human a choice to determine, because he wants to expand this through the universe to where the whole universe becomes one organism. And so he's given this choice to choose free will. I forget, there's 3 choices. I think because I think there was psychics involved in the series. So the choice was human free will, which meant war and chaos continuing, or you were going to be controlled mentally by these mentalists. Oh, and then the last one was, or you can you sign up for the hive mind, where you have no agency. Where it's just this perfect, beautiful, no war scenario. Yeah, I won't spoil the ending as far as what he decides, but let's just put it this way: it's not great.
Okay.
But it made me think of the whole idea of cognition and people always trying to solve these major problems, and the desire to reach for the peace, the utopia. I think it's great to understand these things.
Yeah.
But to have a realistic plan as to what you're going to do with them, right?
Yeah. That's fiction is interesting in many respects. especially speculative fiction, it has its place in our studies, I think. And people, they are fascinated by stories. So yeah, they definitely serve a function there. While you were mentioning this story from Asimov, I had like small flashbacks of my dad telling me, I think it was the same thing, like, Harry, you have to read about this. And I'm trying to remember the name. I think it was Silky or Sylvie, something like that, the entity, that was responsible about that. So yeah, I need to dive into Asimov at some point. Yeah.
I think it's more, it's probably less factual sci-fi, like, oh, this is how this is done. I mean, there's some beautiful imagery on, I think there was a scene where it talks about the oily substance on the outside of the window during
Mm.
the space travel, just things like that. It was just some great imagery. But I found the books fascinating just because these guys are sitting around. There was an old saying about his books. It's just old white guys smoking cigars in space, talking. And I'm
Mm.
like, well, okay, what, you know, but the
Yeah.
conversations and the way they were kind of working through problems and almost like a detective in a detective way too. So it's
Yeah.
kind of cool. I think there's more value in the conversation part of it, but than the mystical sci-fi part of it.
Yeah.
All right, I have a question for you. Does light really have a speed?
I think it does. For me, yeah, I believe it has this maximal speed that is 229 something, whatever. It has that maximal speed because it's something we can calculate. But my own very peculiar idea or conception about light, about the speed of light, is that it has like it actually can assume two speeds, a very slow one, like an extremely slow one. Like imagine a very lazy photon instead of a like that. That's the normal one. But I also allow room in my model, in my framework, about the lazy photon, like a photon that it keeps moving, but it's very lazy. It's like a snail. So yeah, and I believe that as we have like this upper limit for the speed of light, there is also a lower limit for it, and yeah, I have some ideas that what that limit might be, but I don't think it's interesting for anyone else. So, yeah,
No, it's funny because when I was watching you and Karen Wong go over this, and you were explaining things, and she was of course asking you to use E equals MC squared, and I'm like, oh, this is ought to be good, and I heard you talking about the lazy speed.
yeah,
I thought that was so cool. I mean, I'm
yeah,
into it, but yeah, I get that. Not everybody geeks out over this sort of thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, going a bit back to that whole thing. Yeah, first of all, I think a lot of people, they have their own theories about things. Some call them theories of everything. Some call them whatever. Uh, I have my own theory, I think, and the reason I somewhat support my theory is because I became a student of my own theory when I realized that I have some results that they validated. So yeah, it's very difficult though, like to present your own theory. Not even going to that level. To present a theorem, it's very difficult job because a researcher, especially a mathematician, arrives at the definition of a theorem after the proof. So you cannot nail down the actual wording of the theorem until you have the proof of the theory. So it's a very strange type of situation going on there. But the good thing about mathematics is that if you have a proof, then that's valid, because as you said before, 2 plus 2 is 4, it's not 5. So yeah, there is something there. There is something there in mathematics that I find it very attractive.
Yeah, I think everybody's wishing they could find proofs for everything, right? I mean, that's why this whole thing with Christ and finding the religion that you know, what is highest and how to get there thing. I don't know. I mean, it's like, it's so enjoyable to know that I'm not just told the proof. I find sometimes if we had that proof, I almost feel like nihilism would make more sense. You know, that these people would make more sense why they feel the way they do, why the meaning crisis is what it is. But the fact that there's this mystery that's in play, this lack of proof, makes it so much more special, and that we come to this space in the TLC to talk about it and just kind of bang around ideas and, you know, give people space to be creative. That's awesome. Express yourself. It's cool because, you know, people are interested in poetry, they're interested in plays, they're interested in editing videos. It's just awesome, and people obviously gravitate towards each other on interests. But then you find yourself in a Parker schema, and you're looking at your spot, and you're going, these aren't the people I usually interact with. And you realize you're actually in a category that you didn't anticipate being in. And it's kind of like, why am I there? Because I talk with certain people or talk about certain things, or or my transcripts, or the you know, the things that we discuss have been, you know, that data has been mined me into this group. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe this is a group I should actually spend some time with, because we can relate as far as our communication skills. But it doesn't mean I'm not wanting to engage these other group categories. You know, like Irony is like Scott and Olson, like we're all part of the morning show, but I'm not in that color code of those shows. So there's like this cognitive part of, what were we going to say?
No, continue.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like the way that I'm processing information and the things that I'm saying are distinctly different from some of the other people in the morning shows. And so there may be some similarities in what they're saying, and they may have better connections that make more sense. Whereas when this particular K program has put me into a different group, because I'm kind of talking more about those or like those things. And it isn't, and what's crazy is it's not because I'm listening to those channels and developing the language per se. I mean, with Luke, it probably is more so because I want to understand how to communicate with him. So like to understand what he's saying when he says it. But, and I may parrot some of those words at times because of me trying to figure out the communication part. But the other channels that are all around in that particular color sphere, you know, I'd never even gone to them. So there isn't even any cognitive corruption. I only mean that in the term that there's no bias that's occurring because I've been listening to these channels all the time. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier on, that maybe this specific tool, its function is not to take it like as being completely and utterly valid, a valid classification of the channels and the networks and all of that, but it's just to give us an idea of the potential of what is going on. So what I suggest, if you are interested in this type of things, first of all, try to create your own map. Like as you understand it, like it's me, I am Brett, okay? I am part of the morning wave, and I am in this specific cluster. How I interact with the everything else within the corner, or ask very specific questions like, what are the channels that I am not interacting at all? And then you can keep refining that, like why I'm not interacting with these specific channels. Maybe it's because of time zones, maybe for whatever reason, but it's something that it goes back to this interaction of understanding our interactions, understanding our cognition, understanding how we interact with each other, and all of that. So, yeah,
Look,
it's
that's
a good.
helpful. I think you're
it's
right.
Mhm.
Make your own map.
Yeah.
What is your hope? I mean, I have my hope, but what is your hope for the future of the TLC? I remember hearing you talk about the gatherings and the specialness of that and doing more of that type of thing. Do you think it's large enough to be able to pull some of that stuff off? Because like for me, it's very difficult travel wise, right? Like I'm on a peninsula in the United States, so like there's probably, I mean, there's less than a handful of guys I think that I know, well, that I'm even aware of, that are down where I am. So like when we were trying to do this greater regression, what is it, greater regression
Ingression. Yeah.
ingression protocol, when we were trying to do that, it was like, okay, and Matt C had contacted me, and we were like, well, let's do something. And, I was like, okay, great. And then I found out my surgery for my teeth was going to be interfere with that. And I was like, well, that's not going to work. But then he was doing a tiki party. I'm like, oh, well, I'll drive over for that. And that was a great interaction, meeting his friends. Yeah, it was awesome.
He's a good guy, Matt.
Oh,
He's an awesome guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's genuine. So it's like I love those. I love that, and I think a lot of people obviously have a lot more of each other around them, so they have a little bit better access to more members of the corner. So I mean, obviously it has room for growth, but like since you're stepping out and you're kind of I mean, I'm not saying this is an exit interview, because you're going to come back and you're going to do the arc, and I think that's probably going to be more an official giving us a heads up. But what do you, just to give them something some meat to go over you with on the exit interview, what is your hopes for what you would like to see the TLC become or evolve to?
Yeah. It's very difficult to predict the future. I can speculate a bit, and I mentioned a couple of scenarios during my talk with Mark D. Parker. Apart from those scenarios, maybe another idea, another potentiality, to put it like that, for TLC will be for TLC to create a technological product and present that to the world. Like what Parker is doing now, imagine that as one of the products of TLC that TLC can offer to the rest of the world or to other communities, you know. Of course, this is just the example we have at hand, right? Because this is something that already manifested, and it's the work of Parker, right? And it's the work of Parker that he developed based on the previous iteration of that specific search engine that was made by Ryan Lewis. So there is this evolution in terms of creating our own products, and also, as they say, within the programming communities and the computer science companies, we use our own dog food. So we are testing this tool already by ourselves within TLC, right? So yeah, that's just one idea. And I'm not saying that it needs to be a technological product. I'm just saying that that might be one way forward. It might be a creative thing, like with the zine, like what is going on with Skankenstein zine. Maybe it's like I don't know. Maybe it's like a bi-monthly magazine that the TLC is presenting to the world, and people they can access to and whatever. Now, if such products, they are also capable of bringing some money to the community, why not? That might be good. And if the community, if TLC has like a mechanism to redistribute any potential funds to the different, not all the participants, but at least to those that they have their channels and they put all this effort into creating the live streams and creating videos and all of that. Because I am very well aware that YouTube gives peanuts to creators, to the vast majority of the creators, to put it like that. So nobody from the small channels got, or even, and it's a thing like what we, how we classify the size of a channel. Is that a good thing or is that a helpful thing? I don't think it's helpful. And I think that it was PVK that mentions frequently that it doesn't mean that because a channel is big, that it's gonna, that it means anything. You know, we have, there are many examples inside YouTube where you go to a channel that has millions of subscribers, but when you go and look at the latest video, you see that it has like 1,000-2,000 views. And there are many recent examples, like even Ben Shapiro, one of the founders of Daily Wire, his channel now doesn't generate millions of views like it used to in the recent past, like 1 year ago. It struggles with like 1,000, 2,000 views. It's very, very strange. Like this shows that the dynamic within YouTube land is always shifting and changing and all of this. To me, TLC is in a way resilient enough in order to go against the current technological algorithmic trend. As we often say within the corner, we are using the algorithm against the algorithm, right? So that's a good stance. I really believe that. That's a good stance. We're fighting the system from within the system, not from outside the system, right? So I believe that's a good stance. But how that will eventually shape the future of TLC is beyond my sphere of forecasting. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like the people that start channels, you can say what you want about what people think their motivations are, but there's clearly people that are creative and they want to give something to the TLC, and that I think there's a distinction there. Even if I'm not if I don't enjoy whatever the art is, it doesn't mean I can't appreciate the fact that they're doing art for this community of people, and there are enough people that do enjoy it, and so like the engagement stuff is so cool, because I'm into people like that. The movie night with Ezra or the Grim Grizz Monster Bash board game, the interactive stuff, I mean, and even,
Yes.
they were doing the hive mind participation. I think that's just awesome. That's another thing I love about the live streams is the way that some people kind of, I mean, obviously their channels get so big, it's hard to read every comment or, if you, unless you have somebody there. I think that's another area where you'll be missed is, you being able to be a moderator and being able to kind of help out in that arena when things go crazy or, um, we don't have producers. So it's not like, there might be something great somebody put in the comments and it's like, oh, it would have been nice to put that up on the screen or, have the people, whoever we're talking, engage with that particular thing. But yeah, we're just little guys doing channels, and we don't have producers and people doing stuff on the side and helping us out with slides and it would be nice if I think there's a lot of us that wouldn't mind doing this for a job. I mean, doing something more full time where you're able to focus on this and stuff like that to where it's more because it's enjoyable to you, right? It gives you to have ideas and not be able to do any of them. You're just trying to do it in your free time. This is very difficult for me with school. It's like I'm trying to study. I'm also trying to work. I'm working full time. Plus, I'm trying to keep up with videos so I can have conversations with people about what they were talking about. But yeah, YouTube is a fascinating thing. And the fact that TLC seems to be fighting the algorithm, right? We're seekers naturally. So the more people that are talking about a particular channel, we go out and seek that channel, and if we're interested, we subscribe. And then, so then we can keep access to that content coming out on our own accord and not rely on the algorithm. And I think you're right. I've heard popular podcasts complaining about how, well, I don't know if they're complaining because I don't know if they want to be out there saying they're complaining, but they were talking about how YouTube changed the algorithm again. So even these popular podcasts that were getting millions of views now have dropped considerably, and they're blaming it on YouTube hyper focusing on the new channel creators and saying that they're
Yes.
propagating that because they want to keep people coming back and keep people engaged. And I guess they kind of feel like we don't have to propagate Joe Rogan anymore because the people that want to watch Joe Rogan are going to watch Joe Rogan. Well, that's true, but there's also people that rely on their feeding pipeline, you know, and same with the creators. They rely on the feeding pipeline so they can feed their stuff to people. So yeah, I don't know. YouTube having its own control over it all. is wild. You know, I listened to Paul talk about that a couple of times about how the algorithm and they're pushing the shorts and then this and then that. But I also see the value in it. You know, like as many channels as we have, you can't watch everything. So I'm trying to
Yes.
work on creating shorts and, you know, being able to highlight certain things of videos and interactions and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
And you notice that while interacting and playing the TLC game within TLC, we are also developing these digital skills. Like as you said, we learn editing skills. We learn how to craft thumbnails and how to do this and this and this and that. And yeah, that's all part of the good things that is going on, that they are going on within TLC. Yeah. By the way, I really believe that TLC is an exceptional space. Even if I am going away, I still love the place. So yeah, there is definitely something great going on, along with some things that they are not so great, which is okay. So yeah, to put it like that. Um, yeah, a lot of deep thinkers within TLC, by the way, a lot of them. Um, there is something special in this community, in this online community, that is very difficult to find in real life. Like even to me, that I have like, I don't know, hundreds of collaborators over the last 25 years, and I have many great friends that I can call and I can have a conversation with them. I cannot discuss the topics with my real life friends that I can discuss potentially within TLC. So that's one of the another attractive aspect for me within TLC. Yeah.
Are you going to find that? You think you'll be able to find that? Well, I'm sure you're going to still have relationships out in that are in people that are in the TLC that you're going to interact with continuously.
Yeah.
But do you think you'll miss that ability to have that type of interaction at the level that you were having it?
I don't know, man. I think it like this is how I approach it. Uh, you are a smoker, right? Okay. So when a smoker decides to quit smoking, there are two ways you can do it. One is like you can just stop, and I know it's very difficult, but this is what everyone is saying. Like just stop doing it. I don't think that type of thing will work for me. What actually will work is like, let's make the transition to the patch. Let's stop smoking the actual cigarettes. Let's take our nicotine patch for now, for a couple of weeks, and slowly let it, run its course. So that's how I approach TLC. I see it as an addiction, but as a not a bad one, like smoking. I see it as a good addiction that might carry the potential of turning it to something bad, you know. But my general outlook towards TLC is that it is a good thing, but it is also highly addictive. So I don't want to stay within the pond. I want to go out to the ocean, going back to that initial
That
metaphor.
that's a great analogy. I mean, I probably would have used alcohol better, only because, well, I think from a societal standpoint, there's such a taboo on smoking, and just with the way that they framed smoking over the past 30 years and how they kind of went after it, big tobacco, all that stuff. But with alcohol, what's interesting is because there's a social acceptability aspect to it, that everybody can agree, even if there's a random study once in a while, that there's benefits from a health standpoint to partake in some level of alcohol. Now, for me,
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
right? For
Yeah.
me, I know my limitations, and I know that for me, partaking in any alcohol is just I'm not built with a strong enough self governance system that helps me stay balanced with drinking, because my I'm not saying it's a gene thing or anything. I'm just saying that there's the way that I think changes, and I care less, the inhibition stuff. There's things that happen when I used alcohol. So, but I risk the benefits of not having the healthy benefits of it because I can't manage that way, right? um i I kid around with people, like I have family members that have smoked into their 90s, a lot of them, matter of fact, and it's like, so like my petri dish is an example for everyone else in the world, and how I've been made up, or how my family genes are, and then you hear people that get lung cancer and they never smoked a day in their life. They don't even have a history of that in their family.
Yeah.
So, it's difficult because, like with the TLC, um, there's such benefits and all that stuff with the TLC, and having conversations and dialogue, but you can easily see how, if you don't have a good balance or toggle or filter, um, it can be destructive, not just for the people in the TLC that you're talking with, but for your own self, because that stuff just
Yeah.
bleeds all over your friends and family as well,
Yeah. Yeah. And this is why I really like you shifting the example from cigarette smoking to alcohol consumption, because I do agree that what they say, like one cup of wine, one glass of wine has health benefits. And in a way, this is why I never said that, yes, I am leaving TLC, but uh, I am stopping to listening to everything. No, I'm leaving TLC, but I will continue watching like la 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 la, because there is benefit to that, you know. So yeah, this actually is really helpful, I think. Um,
So
and it's not
you're not going to the big parties anymore. You're going to the smaller parties with
wow. I always favor the smaller channels, by the way. But
yeah.
um, that's like a personal preference more than anything else. And for example, I never understood why people treat PVK as a homeroom, and I never got that. Like I understand that in other contexts, like outside TLC, maybe someone treats the Joe Rogan podcast as their homeroom. Like um, I remember in many instances that, especially in terms of people at the office, and they were coming discussing like, hey, did you listen the latest Joe Rogan podcast? And because he brought Bob Lazar or whatever, it was the trendy thing back then. So for many people, Joe Rogan function as this homeroom in a very similar way that PVK functions as the homeroom for TLC. You know, yeah. For me, that was never the case. Like, for example, the content of PVK that I really like is the rough drafts for Sunday. I really like the back then the Paul and Freddy show. So I like those aspects. It's not that everybody within TLC is like is mono focusing on PVK. We are not a cult, so that's another thing that a lot of people struggle with. Are we a cult or are we not a cult, and all of that jazz? Um, and I think the best argument is that we are not a cult because not everyone only listens to the leader. You know, it's we are way more pluralistic and all of that. So
No,
yeah.
I think you're right. I think people, when the Jordan Peterson vacuum occurred, it seemed that there was this overemphasis on the filling the void, and he was definitely a great conversation starter, whatever his topics were at very least,
Mm.
you know. But as things are getting bigger, you don't have to rely on PBK to bring the conversation that you're going to talk about that week. You know, it's like we have enough, you know, up and downs and new people coming in asking the same old questions that have been asked in the TLC, and maybe people are getting better at answering those questions from their perspective than they were before. But I do love the relationship building, and I don't not a fan of people minimizing it. I understand when they minimize the relationships here, that may be how they see it, which is fine. You know, they're not, you know, that committed to these people and in the way that they are maybe their family. Well, I wouldn't expect anything else, but I am a lot more committed to these people in this space because they're vulnerable with their ideas in this brave space. And because of that, um, it puts them in a different place in the hierarchy of average people that are in my life. Again,
Mm.
I have stronger relationships in real life as well. You know, I'm not saying, you know what I mean. So it's like these proper ordering of people in my life in general, and valuing the things they do for me, things they don't even realize they're doing for me. You know, and that's I think what's so special about this place. And we'll
Yeah.
definitely miss your regular interaction, but it'll always be nice to know that you're banging around.
Yeah. And I am. It's very easy to for people to get in contact with me, uh, especially in terms of Discord, um, but also with email. I I try to be as responsive as possible in that regard. And when I had this idea of the exit interview, I I I mentioned to Mark that my instinct is that there is not gonna be a single exit interview. Like I was expecting people reaching out to me like you did in order to discuss, and many people reached out to me after that interview, and it's great. And I had like only yesterday I had like a lovely private Zoom call with someone that is part of the Hive Mind. I will not. There is no reason to name them, but it was really heartfelt conversation, and yeah, I wasn't expecting that to be honest, but it's happening, and that's what's great in this little corner of the internet. Yeah,
Yeah, you have been
awesome.
very you've been very helpful to me. I remember the first time, you know, all of a sudden I got this email, and I'm like, oh man, he's giving me the link because we're having problems getting. I'm like, what a nice guy, man. I'm like, that's so cool, and then being able to correspond with you even in the little bits that we have. You've just been very generous, with your help and your support, and I want to thank you for that. And also, I want to thank you again for spending time with me this morning. Probably took more than I should have. I sometimes get lost, and I need to learn how to respect people's time better.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I had a really good time, and I know Um, I don't know. Maybe people find what we discuss here interesting. So there is always that hope too. You know. So
Hopefully, I hope I didn't. Because I'm not a great interviewer, but you made a great point in your email. It's like just let's have get a conversation and have fun. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. That's easy. That's easier
yeah,
for me to just ask questions I'm interested in about, and maybe some that I think maybe other people would be interested in. But I might suck at this, and either way, I know I'm with somebody that has a hospitable uh, perception of me and my space and interacting with me. So I appreciate that.
you are man. Thank you for reaching out, and yeah, I will see you around, and you can reach out to me whenever you want. But whenever you want, it's a pleasure talking with you. Awesome.